Hello everyone, welcome. I think I was counting last night and I think this is our 8th Talking Point Tuesday. So welcome back to everyone that has been regulars and welcome to our newcomers this month, Tom, Molly. This one's about digital health tech and we've got a really jam-packed agenda, so 4 speakers. So I'll just rattle through my bit here so we can get on with the speakers. That's me. I'd like to welcome Teresa Fortune, Chief Operating Officer at the Innovation Observatory, just to give a little bit of a roundup about our industry engagement. Thanks, Teresa.
Morning, everybody. Lovely to see everybody. Can't quite believe the numbers now that we get with our Talking Point Tuesdays. They're just becoming more and more popular. So, as Jen said, I'm Teresa Fortune. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with the NIHI Innovation Observatory. And why is the Innovation Observatory here and why are we hosting these events? So basically, we are a national centre funded by the Department of Health and Social Care and the NIHR to interpret intelligence on behalf of the health and life science landscape so that they can interpret that intelligence so that they can use that to inform their policy and their decision making. So whilst we're going around developing tools and developing methodologies as a research team to gather this intelligence, to feed into the Department of Health and Social Care, to feed into the wider NIHR, to feed it to NICE, to feed it to NHS England, we're gathering this hugely rich resource. And we also have an expectation on us that we disseminate that resource, that we're a publicly funded research team. And so who else could find that information useful? Because after all, look at who's using it and what it's doing. So basically, while we're gathering that information, which one of the key things that we do is that we look across the horizon. So we're looking at information, very early information about technologies, as Andrew will tell you, sometimes before they even have a name. We're gathering those emerging horizons, that information. We're gathering information about transitional horizons, so technologies that are in the early phases of clinical trial and assessment. And then we're looking at technologies that are also about to come to market or recently to market, and we're looking at them from a regulatory and technical usefulness area, and we feed that information into the landscape. So what we do is we disseminate that information both through our website, which if you haven't had a look at it, it's a huge resource of information. But we also have events like this where we let people know what we do. We put it into context as to why we've gathered that information and why that might be useful. And we basically give everybody an opportunity to link in and see how things fit. So with that, I'm going to say welcome to our speakers. So we've got our old hands, we've got Andrew and Gurdeep, and we've been joined by Edward and Nigel today. So I say welcome and thank you for joining us today. And I will hand over to Jen to take us through a little bit more about how Talking Point Tuesdays work. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Right, so yeah, just to quickly go through, these are the remaining events we've got in this sort of before the summer break. So today, digital health tech, and then we're looking at sustainability in health in May, public patient involvement and inclusivity in June, and then finishing off with horizon scanning globally in July. So please I will do a follow-up email after this event with all the details of how to register for those. So please do sign up to those. We'd love to see you there. And we will be starting again come September with some new topics. This is just typical Talking Point Tuesday format. But as I say today, we've crammed 4 speakers in, so you're very lucky today. Usually they always take the same format, and right at the end we have our experts in virtual residence, so you have the opportunity to book a 10-minute slot with some of our speakers and Innovation Observatory team. Unfortunately today is fully booked. It's a very popular session, but if you are interested in having that 10-minute session one-to-one, completely confidential, we'll have one running for the next one, the sustainability event. So just get in touch. I will send out the details so you can register, and there's just a short form to fill out. There we go. That's like our promotional advert for that. And Teresa sort of mentioned this before on our website about the industry resources that we've got available. We've got a new website, very user-friendly. We store all of our reports, dashboards, visual reports, technology briefings, articles on there. So it's got a very, very easy-to-use search facility. So anything that you're looking for, very specific, you can type into the search box and that will bring up anything we have ever written, any horizon scans we've ever done on that subject. So that might be very useful for your business. And that's how it looks. So have a look on the website. We've been told it's very easy to use. Right, that's me. I would like to introduce Edward Minor to the stage, please. We're very excited for your talk.
Right. Mic working okay? Perfect, okay. So, good morning. My name is Edward Minor. I am a professor of digital health and clinical artificial intelligence here at Newcastle University. I'm an engineer by training, and I have the privilege of working closely with clinical colleagues to design, develop, deploy, and evaluate digital technologies that support a wide range of health conditions, particularly chronic diseases. My research is grounded in implementation science, so there I'm focused on evidence and how to embed effective, scalable, and sustainable healthcare innovations into both real-world clinical practice and in the hands of patients to use in their day-to-day lives. At its core, my work aims to ensure that technological advances translate into tangible improvements in patient outcomes and the overall efficiency of health systems. Today's talk will offer a broad discussion on the opportunities and challenges surrounding digital health and artificial intelligence. While the themes we explore are applicable across many disciplines, I'll focus this lens through the context of mental health. Given the urgency and complexity of mental health needs, this focus provides both a critical context and a useful perspective for understanding how innovation can be meaningfully applied, evaluated, and scaled in practice. The National Health Service is built on its people. Every patient seen, every treatment given, and every life saved depends on having enough skilled professionals. But we are now facing a growing workforce crisis, one that could determine the future of the UK's health system and help highlight similar lessons that can be applied worldwide. This slide tells a stark story. The green line shows how NHS staff numbers have steadily increased over time. The dark dashed line reflects past demand, which closely tracked workforce growth. But moving forward, three possible futures emerge. Trend growth, continuing at historical rates, will leave us at least 100,000 people short of what's needed. Slow growth, falling behind past trends, creates an even bigger problem. Rising demand, if healthcare needs grow as expected, the shortfall could reach 250,000 staff by 2028. This means an overstretched system, longer waiting times, and immense pressure on frontline workers. A staffing gap of this scale threatens increased patient delays and deteriorating care quality, greater reliance on expensive short-term staff, higher burnout, leading more professionals to leave the NHS. This is not a distant problem. It's already happening. The numbers are clear. The NHS must prioritize staffing. If we don't act now, today's workforce shortages will become tomorrow's crisis. The future of healthcare depends on what we can do next. Today, I want to suggest to you that this future depends not only on expanding the workforce, but on using technology, ensuring that digital innovation supports professionals, enhances efficiency, and ultimately improves patient outcomes. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the demand for psychological treatment has risen significantly across multiple areas. In this data, using the US as an example, the most notable increase is seen in anxiety disorders, where reported demand rose from 72% in 2020 to a striking 82% in 2021. Similarly, depressive disorders cases also surged from 58% to 70%. Trauma and stressor-related disorders followed a similar trend, increasing from 46% to 58%, reflecting the lasting psychological impact of the pandemic. Sleep-wake disorders also saw a rise, with 38% of practitioners reporting increased demand in 2021, up from 33% the year before. Feeding and eating disorders, while representing a smaller percentage, still grew from 10% in 2020 to 15% in 2021, indicating heightened stress-related eating issues. Substance-related and addictive disorders, another critical area, saw an increase from 18% to 27%, possibly linked to coping mechanisms developed during lockdowns. Lastly, obsessive-compulsive and related disorders also saw a notable jump, rising from 25% to 35%. These findings highlight the growing need for mental health support in the wake of the pandemic, underscoring the essential role of psychological services in addressing these challenges. Mental health services are currently under immense strain, with demand far exceeding supply. In many healthcare systems, including our NHS, patients experience long wait times, sometimes waiting weeks or even months before receiving the support they need. This delay can exacerbate symptoms and lead to worsened health outcomes. This NHS Providers Report highlights the increasing care deficit, demonstrating the urgency of scalable, technology-driven solutions. AI and digital health interventions present promising approaches to bridge this gap. However, these innovations must be designed carefully, ensuring they complement rather than replace traditional clinical support. Artificial intelligence refers to the capacity of computers or other machines to exhibit or simulate intelligent behavior. In healthcare, AI is transforming diagnostics, treatment planning, and patient monitoring. When applied to mental health, AI holds promise in early detection, personalized interventions, and improved accessibility. However, the introduction of AI into healthcare must be guided by robust ethical principles, transparency, and rigorous validation to ensure that these tools are safe, effective, and inclusive. In recent years, digital health funding has surged, particularly in mental health and on-demand healthcare. This slide visualizes the evolution of investment priorities from 2017 to 2021. On the left, we see the top funded value propositions. In 2021, research and development attracted the highest investment, $5.8 billion, followed by on-demand healthcare and disease treatment, each at $4.5 billion. Fitness and wellness also remained prominent, securing $4.3 billion. These figures reflect the growing appetite for digital solutions that improve access, support treatment, and promote overall well-being. On the right, we observe the top funded clinical indications where mental health stands out. Investment in this space rose from $500 million in 2017 to $5.1 billion in 2021, making it the leading clinical area for digital health funding every year since 2018. This reflects not only increased awareness of the global mental health crisis, but also growing confidence in the ability of digital tools to address it at scale. Yet, with this influx of capital and attention comes a deeper challenge. What will we, as innovators and entrepreneurs, do with these opportunities? How do we reframe the way technology is conceived and applied, not merely to digitize existing models, but to address longstanding concerns around trust, equity, evidence, and impact? This is where the real work begins. The future of digital health will not be shaped solely by the volume of investment or the speed of technological development. It will be defined by our ability to embed innovation responsibly, to ensure that solutions are not only scalable but safe, clinically valid, and aligned with patient and practitioner needs. Mental health gives us one window into these capabilities, but the principles we must apply, evaluation, thoughtful design, and collaborative implementation are universal across all of healthcare. The next frontier is not just more AI, it's better AI delivered in smarter ways to solve problems that truly matter. As digital health continues to evolve, the role of mobile apps in supporting mental health and well-being is increasingly scrutinized. This slide, based on research conducted by my team, examines the effectiveness of health apps in influencing various participant health outcomes. Among the assessed outcomes, mental well-being, including depression, anxiety, perceived stress, life satisfaction, and mood, was a key focus. Other studies reviewed 5 examined mental well-being, yet none provided significant evidence of impact. 3 studies found some evidence, while 2 reported no evidence at all. These findings are critical, as it underscores the gap between the increasing use of digital mental health interventions and the evidence needed to validate their effectiveness. While mobile health solutions hold great promise in addressing mental health challenges, this analysis highlights the necessity for stronger research and validation. Overall, this data signals an urgent need for further research and innovation in digital mental health solutions. As investment in mental health technology grows, ensuring these tools are evidence-based will be essential in shaping their role in future healthcare strategies. As we zoom into the UK context, the mental health app market offers a striking illustration of this accelerating trend. According to Grand View Research, this market was valued at just under $300 million in 2024 and is projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 15.8% by 2025 and 2030. This trajectory reflects not only rising demand, but also growing confidence in digital interventions as a legitimate part of the mental health care ecosystem. We see constant growth across all platforms, including a broadening user base and increasing accessibility. But again, the real question is not simply how fast this market is growing, but how well are we shaping that growth? This is the inflection point where entrepreneurs, clinicians, and technologists must ask, are we solving the right problems? And are we doing so in a way that builds trust, supports clinical goals, and enhances lives? This market growth creates space, but it's up to us to ensure that what fills it is truly meaningful. The integration of artificial intelligence and psychology represents a transformative shift in the way in which mental health services are delivered, analyzed, and optimized. AI's capabilities extend across a multitude of critical domains, ranging from quality control in clinical settings to advanced textual analysis, enabling a deeper understanding of patient experiences through natural language processing. Moreover, AI-driven tools are increasingly being utilized to identify and diagnose condition subgroups, facilitating more precise and personalized interventions. A particularly promising application of AI within this field is its role in cognitive behavior therapy and other psychotherapeutic methodologies. AI-powered chatbots, for example, are now capable of delivering structured, evidence-based interventions to individuals struggling with anxiety, depression, and related psychological conditions. These digital platforms can be immediate, scalable, provide consistent support, addressing accessibility barriers that have historically limited mental health care accessibility. Beyond intervention, AI is proving to be an invaluable asset in longitudinal patient monitoring, ensuring continuity of care by tracking changes in mental health status over time, by analyzing patient responses, engagement levels, and therapeutic outcomes. AI systems can generate actionable insights that inform clinicians about the efficiency of treatment plans, thereby enhancing overall care quality and promoting data-driven decision-making. Now, what I'd like to do is transition to 2 cases that my lab has been involved with. Mental health services are facing increasing strain, rising demand, workforce services, and long wait times, as we've discussed. This has significant public health and economic consequences, driving up costs and burdening emergency social services. To address this, we must integrate scalable evidence-based solutions. And a company called Cindy is an example. Cindy leverages validated AI-driven diagnostics to provide early, accurate mental health assessments, ensuring individuals receive timely and appropriate support. Using machine learning, it tailors interventions, whether self-guided therapy, structured coping mechanisms, or professional care, optimizing resource allocation within healthcare systems. From a policy perspective, Cindy offers a cost-effective, scalable model that enhances access without overlooking clinical services. Real-time data tracking allows policymakers to access impact, monitor population-level trends, and integrate digital tools into public health strategies. Predictive analytics further enable early intervention, reducing crises and pressure on acute care services. My team has been evaluating the impact of the solution and assessing its ability to reduce wait times, improve clinical efficiency, and expand access while maintaining high clinical and ethical standards. By embedding AI-driven digital mental health into national strategies, we can move towards a proactive, data-driven, and patient-centered approach to mental health care. WISA is an AI-driven mental health platform designed to help individuals manage their mental well-being and build resilience. It has received recognition as the best app in Health and Care Awards, with top ratings for both users and clinicians. The problem, as we've discussed, is long waiting lists and low acceptance rates, and mental health services face significant challenges. In 2018 to 2019, there were 1.5 million referrals to NHS psychological therapies, but nearly half were discharged without face-to-face treatment. In this patient experiences, individuals seeking support often wait over 12 weeks for triage alone. On the overall cost of the NHS, unsuccessful assessments that result in discharge cost the NHS more than $90 million annually. WISA focuses on individuals who fall between mild and severe mental health conditions. It provides self-care routines and coping skills using clinically validated tools, AI-guided listening and triage to assess mental health status, screening for distress levels to determine appropriate intervention pathways. My team evaluated the impact of WISA to assess its effectiveness in reducing waiting times, improving patient outcomes, and alleviating pressure on NHS services. Our research focused on measuring engagement, clinical efficacy, and the role of AI in supporting mental health care at scale. This evaluation contributed to an understanding of how digital solutions can complement traditional services and drive evidence-based integration into healthcare systems. Across both CINDY and WISA, our team has led evaluations focused on how digital, AI-driven mental health can relieve pressure on overstretched services while maintaining clinical quality. With CINDY, we explored how early assessment and tailored intervention pathways can reduce wait times, improve triage, and inform smarter system-level planning. Our evaluation focused on outcomes like efficiency, access, and the ethical deployment of diagnostic AI. With WISA, we assessed the platform's role in supporting individuals who might otherwise fall through the cracks, those with needs not deemed severe enough for traditional services, but who still required structured, evidence-based support. Our work looked at engagement, patient outcomes, and system-level benefits like discharge rates and cost avoidance. Together, these case studies show how we can rigorously evaluate emerging tools and provide the evidence base for safe, effective integration into public healthcare systems. As we look ahead, there's a clear opportunity to work directly with companies to co-design solutions grounded in clinical and operational realities, measure real-world impact across diverse populations and settings, generate the kind of evidence that accelerates both adoption and policy alignment. AI is revolutionizing healthcare, impacting various domains that improve both patient outcomes and system efficiency. This framework highlights 6 key areas where AI is making a substantial difference. In chronic care management, AI-powered tools assist in managing long-term conditions by offering personalized treatment plans, remote monitoring, and predictive analytics to prevent complications. With self-care, prevention, and wellness, AI-driven applications empower individuals to take proactive steps in their health through digital coaching, lifestyle recommendations, and early risk detection. With triage and diagnosis, AI enhances clinical decision-making by accessing patient symptoms, prioritizing cases, and recommending diagnostic pathways with greater speed and accuracy. In diagnostics, machine learning models improve the precision of imaging, pathology, and genetic analysis, reducing diagnostic errors and enabling early detection of diseases. With clinical decision support, AI-driven systems assist healthcare professionals by analyzing large data sets, providing evidence-based insights, and enhancing decision-making in treatment strategies. And finally, in care delivery, AI optimizes hospital operations, patient flow, and resource allocation, ensuring that healthcare services are delivered efficiently and equitably. At a broader level, these advancements contribute to 3 overarching objectives: improving population health management by enabling early detection and intervention, enhancing operational efficiency through automation and data-driven insights, and strengthening innovation by driving research and the development of new medical solutions. Ultimately, AI in healthcare is not about replacing human expertise, but augmenting it, enhancing precision, accessibility, and efficiency while keeping patient-centered care at the forefront. The successful integration and widespread adoption of AI-driven mental health interventions are contingent upon their rigorous validation through empirical research and clinical assessment. Without a robust body of evidence demonstrating their efficacy, scalability, and long-term safety, these digital solutions risk being perceived as mere technological novelties rather than legitimate clinical tools capable of complementing or enhancing traditional therapeutic approaches. To establish AI as credible and an impactful player in the mental health landscape, several critical factors must be taken into account. First and foremost is accessibility, ensuring that these tools are not limited to specific demographics, but are designed to serve diverse populations, including those in underserved and marginalized communities. Additionally, the digital divide remains a pressing concern as disparities in technological literacy and internet access could inadvertently exclude the very individuals who stand to benefit the most from these innovations. It's of the utmost importance that we continually revisit and reaffirm the foundational values that define trustworthy AI, particularly in the context of healthcare and mental health applications. As AI-driven technologies become increasingly embedded in clinical practice, decision-making, and patient care, we must ensure that these systems are built upon a framework that prioritizes transparency, inclusivity, and ethical accountability at every stage of their development and deployment. Transparency must extend beyond simply asking how an AI system functions. It should encompass clear communication to its limitations, risks, and decision-making processes, ensuring that both healthcare professionals and patients can engage with these technologies with informed confidence. This requires AI developers to adopt open, interpretable models that facilitate auditability, oversight, and continuous improvement, preventing the emergence of opaque or black box solutions that hinder trust and accountability. Inclusivity must remain a guiding principle to prevent AI from reinforcing existing biases or exacerbating healthcare disparities. Data sets used to train AI models must reflect the diversity of populations they aim to serve, taking into account variations in socioeconomic background, geographic accessibility, and cultural sensitivities. Without deliberate efforts to embed inclusivity into AI systems, we risk creating technologies that inadvertently exclude vulnerable or underrepresented groups from receiving equitable, high-quality care. Ethical accountability is not merely an aspirational goal. It's a non-negotiable responsibility. AI must always function as a tool for empowerment rather than exclusion, serving as a mechanism for enhancing human well-being rather than a force that erodes patient autonomy, privacy, or dignity. This requires continuous interdisciplinary collaboration among healthcare professionals, researchers, policymakers, ethicists, patient advocacy groups, and of course engineers, to establish robust ethical safeguards that govern AI's role in healthcare. Ultimately, AI should never be seen as a replacement for human judgment, empathy, and professional expertise. Instead, it must be leveraged as a supplementary force, a means of enhancing efficiency, precision, and accessibility, while upholding the fundamental principles of medical ethics and patient-centered care. As stewards of AI's integration into healthcare, it's our collective duty to prioritize patient well-being above all else, ensuring that every advancement in AI aligns with the core mission of medicine, to heal, to support, and to serve humanity with integrity and compassion. Over the course of this talk, we've explored the rising demand for healthcare services, the systemic pressures on healthcare workforces, and the unprecedented growth in digital health and AI-driven innovation. We've seen that mental health, while our focal point today, is not unique in its challenges. It is, however, emblematic of broader pressures in healthcare and a clear example of how digital and AI technologies can illuminate problems and offer new solutions. We reviewed the funding landscape, the gaps in evidence, and the emerging tools, like Cindy and WISA, that show what's possible when innovation is grounded in need, evaluated, and designed in partnership with clinicians, patients, researchers, and systems. We've also seen that while AI health app market is expandingly growing, the real question is not how fast, but how well we're growing. And are we creating tools that are equitable, trustworthy, and impactful? The promise of AI is immense, but so are the risks of getting it wrong. Technology without transparency, inclusivity, and ethical grounding is just noise. So where does this leave us? If you're a researcher, prioritize evaluation and evidence. Build data sets that reflect the diversity of our population and challenge assumptions baked into current models. If you're an entrepreneur, co-design with patients and clinicians from the start. Don't settle for superficial engagement. Make your tools usable, relevant, and grounded in clinical reality. If you're a policymaker or commissioner, demand high standards. Resist the hype cycle. Invest not only in innovation, but in the ecosystems that support safe, scalable, and accountable action. And if you're a clinician or service leader, don't let AI be done to you. Shape it, challenge it, inform it. Your insight is essential in ensuring these tools serve practice, not the other way around. And if you're a patient, make sure these things count. As we stand at the intersection of rising need, growing technological capability, and widening health inequity, we must ask, what kind of future are we building? Let's ensure it's one where innovation does not leave the most vulnerable behind, where AI augments, not replaces human care, and where digital tools are not just faster, but better, safer, and truly transformative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward. That was eye-opening and, yeah, mind-blowing and inspirational as well at the end. Right, we will move on. There'll be some time for questions with all of our speakers at the end, but we'll move on to Dr. Gurdeep Sagoo from Newcastle University. Welcome, Gurdeep.
Thank you. Hi everyone, pleasure to be here. My name is Gurdeep Sagoo. I'm a senior lecturer in health economics and I co-lead the health economics group at Newcastle University. I'm also a member of the Depth AI Lab, so thank you, Edward, esteemed leader. So today I'm going to just give you a very brief talk about health economics and digital health, and I'm going to focus on a particular exemplar project that I've got going on. So one of the really early uses of AI technology was interacting with images and looking at images. And so I did some work with Chiron Medical Technologies on breast cancer, and that went really well. I also, so you're going to hear from Nigel at the end of this morning's sessions, and I was at Leeds when Pinpoint came to Leeds and started talking to Leeds about doing some health economics, doing some evaluation work, and Nigel's going to talk about that. But what I want to talk to you guys today is about a different study I've got going on. So this is using AI to look at pulmonary nodules within the lung on CT scans. So it's a very nicely, sweetly titled Dolce study, which is determining the impact of AI on the management of pulmonary nodules detected incidentally on CT scans. So the idea behind this particular study is that it's a multi-center, prospective, observational study. So it's non-interventional. This has its pros and its cons. The idea is that these CT scans are not specifically looking for lung cancer, but pulmonary nodules can still be picked up on these CT scans. So we're trying to opportunistically detect them or incidentally detect them. Once we've detected them, the idea is that these individuals are then followed up for 12 months, which gives us a decent length of time to see what actually happens to these individuals. And because it's a non-interventional study, we need to think about how we're going to use the data that we collect to try and evaluate it with respect to both effectiveness and also cost effectiveness. And so I'm going to talk about the cost effectiveness now. And so we have to create hypothetical scenarios or counterfactuals to allow us to evaluate in terms of cost effectiveness. So what we've done is we've created 4 particular pathways. 3 of them are hypothetical, and one of them is factual, is standard care. So this is what actually happens to these patients. So these patients are they're going through their healthcare journey. Nodules are detected. They're treated in some way, and we follow that up for 12 months. So we have that information. And what we decided was that there are different ways that AI can be used in this context. So Edward was talking about either diagnostics or clinical decision support tools. So we've tried to do a little bit of that. We're also thinking about trustworthiness. So if we were to use AI, to what extent can we trust it? So the second pathway is the AI technology alone. So if treatment was to be based purely on that, what would we expect to happen given that we know what actually happened to these individuals and what their clinicians decided? So that's one way of evaluating it. Another way is to use the AI and develop a risk score which the clinician then bases their judgment on. So if treatment is based on the clinician using the AI technology, but the AI technology is presenting a risk score. So what happens? What would we expect to happen, given that we know what actually happened to these patients? And the third comparison that we're making is if we were to use the AI algorithm to develop a threshold which we can use as a rule out. So these pulmonary nodules, they're being detected, but they're not likely to be lung cancer. They're not likely to be cancerous. So we can not intervene. If we give that information to the clinicians, what are they going to do with that? How do they interact with that? And we develop all three of these comparative hypothetical pathways, two of them anyway, in consultation with the clinicians. So we literally ask the clinicians, okay, so you know what you actually did or what you're going to do. If we were to do this with the AI, how would it impact on your decision making in both of those particular scenarios? And then we track through time to see what actually happened to the patients based on the treatment that they received. And then we can do some mathematical modeling, which is the next slide. So apologies that it's a little bit small, but we've already developed a model. So this is a decision tree. So down here is standard practice, and we either have the nodule and have the AI detect the nodule or not. And we have the other three pathways which we can mathematically model these individuals through to see how their treatment impacts on their outcomes. And so we've got two parts of this study. What we're interested in is looking at two different time points. So if we were to focus on just the decision making, the diagnostic journey, we can limit to a 12-month time frame. And if we were to go beyond that, so if these individuals actually go on to have lung cancer and we have to actually treat them over a longer period of time, is it worth trying to pick them up via this route? Is it going to work out to be value for money? And for that particular part of the decision-making problem, we've developed a Markov model to try and track these individuals through that journey. So we're basing the information that we're going to put into this model on the observational study itself, but we're also going to supplement that with the published literature. So we can't expect to get all the information that we need from a single source. We're not tracking these individuals for long enough. So we need to supplement information from what's already known. And we estimate, the idea is that we're going to estimate which of these four pathways that we're comparing is likely to be the best in terms of value for money. So which is the cost-effective scenario. And we're going to do that, as I said, over two different time points, a 12-month shorter term time horizon and then a longer lifetime time horizon. And the answers may be different. So one of the pathways may be cost-effective at 12 months and a different pathway may be cost-effective over a lifetime time horizon. And that's perfectly acceptable. And the idea behind this is that we will then try and guide further research or try and think about how this pathway, this technology can be implemented. So if we think it's value for money, if we think it's cost effective or likely to be cost effective at 12 months and at a lifetime time horizon, then we can start to think about, okay, so how do we go about actually using this and what is the process that will enable that to happen? So that's a very brief, very quick tour of a health economic component of a particular study. So I'm going to hand over to my next colleague. Thank you.
Welcome, Andrew. Dr. Andrew Misaki from Innovation Observatory. There's that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so my name is Andrew Mukwashi, and I am a senior research associate within the Innovation Observatory, and also I lead the medtech projects. So just a brief background about myself. I've been in the medtech space for over a decade now, having done my PhD at the Open University on regulatory science, and I was focusing mainly on medical device regulations, industrial capabilities, and also affordable healthcare technologies. I then went on to do my postdoc at UCL in London, where I was also looking at the standardization and regulation of connected intelligent medical devices. So I think I've got a little bit of knowledge of what I'm talking about today. So with regards to the topic of discussion today, I want to just talk about navigating the regulatory pathway and cybersecurity for digital healthcare companies. So as you already know that when we are talking about digital healthcare technologies, these are a subset of medical technologies, which are also a subset of healthcare technologies. But the focus mainly is about the digital healthcare technologies, which are tools and services that use information and communication technologies to improve prevention, diagnostics, treatment, monitoring, and also management of your health and lifestyle. So I thought it would be good for us to understand when we are talking about digital healthcare technologies, there are different categories of digital healthcare categories. So some of them, they are industry facing or a healthcare system facing, and the other technologies are patient facing. So I want to focus more on the patient facing technologies, which include the health wellness. So these are disease agnostic solutions that capture and store, and sometimes they transmit health and data to promote general well-being and health living. And then we have got the patient monitoring technologies, which are the solutions that are intended to monitor specific patient health data. And we have got the care support technologies, which are solutions intended to support patient and self-management of specific diagnostics medical conditions. We also have got the digital diagnostics and also the digital therapeutics. So the last two, which are the digital diagnostics and the digital therapeutics, are key to the talk of today, because they need to go through regulatory oversight. So for the five that I talked about, the patient-facing digital healthcare technologies, they are categorized based on key aspects in terms of the label claims, also the intervention delivery, the evidence requirements, and the regulatory implications. So for example, if we talk about health and wellness technologies, they do not make claims. They do not make claims to treat or improve or diagnose any medical condition. Because of that, when we now talk about the regulatory implication, it means to say the health and wellness technologies do not require regulatory oversight. But then when we talk about the patient monitoring, they may require non-clinical claims. And because of that, when it comes to regulatory implications, they also may require regulatory approval. So the ones that I want to focus again on are the last two, which is the digital diagnostics. If you are developing any digital diagnostic or a digital therapeutic, the claim for those particular technologies, they actually make a claim to diagnose or assess a specific disease or a medical condition. And also they can make a claim to treat or alleviate specific disease or a condition. And because of those particular claims, that means to say they become regulated products both, and also they will have a label for indication, the usage and evidence, and the warnings. So in terms of the regulatory pathway, this is dependent on the target market that you want your product to be marketed. If you are thinking big and you want to go to the US, there are some regulatory pathways that you've got to go through. They've got three main regulatory pathways, which is the pre-market notification, the 510, which is mainly known by a lot of people, but it's also known as the pre-market notification. And we have got the PMA, which is the pre-market approval pathway, and we've got the de novo classification pathway. The de novo classification is for novel technologies which do not have predicate technologies that are already on the market, or first generation technologies that are already on the market. But in terms of the regulatory pathway, it is more stringent than the other two. And then when we come to the EU, I think majority of you already know that you need a CE mark, and also you need to follow the MDR, or the medical device regulations. I'll talk about that shortly. And then when it comes to other regions, for example, when you come to the UK, we've got the competent authority, which is the MHRA, that gives oversight to these particular technologies. In Australia, we've got the TGA, and then we've got Health Canada in Canada. But key steps that we've got to, as a manufacturer, as an innovator, or as a company that is developing these particular technologies, you have got to make sure that you know your product classification. You've got to make sure that you have done your clinical evaluations well, and you have got to know the plans for your post-market surveillance. So when it comes to the EU, there is a hierarchy for these regulations. So we have got the laws and the directives and the regulations which are mandatory. We have got to adhere to certain laws that have been put in place, and also the directives, and as well as the regulations. But we also have got harmonized standards and also general standards, including guidance and technical documentation that you've got to comply with. Some are mandatory and the others are voluntary. When it comes to harmonized standards, they actually demonstrate the compliance with relevant legislation. For example, they may be mentioned in the regulations that I will be talking about shortly. So when you are now developing your digital technology, there are some standards that you've got to start to think about from the early R&D up till you dispose that particular technology. So there are some, for example, if you are developing a software, or if your technology is embedding software as a medical device, or a software in medical device, or AI as a medical device, or AI-based medical device, or AI-enabled, whatever you might want to think when it comes to software that you are developing, you need to start to think about, for example, there is the medical device process standards, which is the IEC 62304. So this is the standard that gives detailed direction to how to develop and maintain a safe software. And it affects the implementation of that particular software. And not only that, it requires now some management, some medical device management standards. For example, the ISO 14971, it is a risk management standard. So you need to make sure that you've put in place a plan on how you are going to comply with those particular standards, as well as the quality management standards like the ISO 13485 there. But those medical device management standards, they actually lay a foundation to develop a medical device, and they affect the implementation of the software. So not only that, but you've got also to think about some other, product standards that give specific directions for the creation of this particular technology that you will be also developing. And not only that, but there are other resources that you need to start to think about as a developer of these particular technologies that we are talking about. So that gives guidelines and techniques that may be used. and they inspire again the implementation. So this is sort of the relationship of all the standards that you are supposed to be taking cognizant of when you are developing these particular technologies. But at the same time, when you are developing these technologies, if it is those technologies that require regulatory oversight, that means to say you have got to make sure that you know which classification it is. So the classification is based on the risk profile of that particular device or technology that you are creating. So that means that you are thinking about the level of invasiveness, the potential harm, and the duration of contact, as well as the intended use. And the lower the risk of your product, that means that it will be under a lower class. For example, if you are developing a digital diagnostic, which is of a low risk, then it will go under class A. And if you are developing a digital diagnostic, which is more of a high risk, then it will be on class D. If you are developing anything that is not diagnostic but more of a medical device, again, it depends on the risk profile of that particular. So you need to understand the classification of the technology that you are developing, and that will also determine the regulatory pathway that you have got to go through. So in terms of the UK, the UK is the medical devices in the UK are actually regulated under the Medical Device Regulations 2002 statutory instrument, and the MHRA, like I said, is responsible for regulating the medical devices. But there have been, since 2021, there have been some changes that have been put to that regulation. That includes also the UK CA marking, which was introduced during in 2021. And you need to also start to think about some of the approved bodies, or you've got to think about the approved body that you will be engaging with when you are now developing this particular technology that you are talking about. There are about 10 or 11 approved bodies that are recognized by the MHRA. That includes, for example, the BSI, the UL, the SGS, and also the Intratech and the like. So there are about 10 of them. So you have got to start to engage. And when you start, at the very earliest stage of your development, start to think about the notified body or the approved body that you are going to be dealing with, because the notified bodies are the ones that actually give you the UK CA mark or the CE mark. And as an approved body, it then assesses whether manufacturers and their medical devices meet the regulatory requirements. And typically, the activities that can be undertaken by these approved bodies, they include the full quality assurance, the examination of the design and the type examination, verification product and product quality assurance, and they also conduct scheduled audit visits and unannounced audit visits on the manufacturers and even on the subcontractors. When it comes to the EU, there are two principal applicable regulations, which is the MDR 2017-745, and then for the IVD is the 2017-746. So these are the main regulations that govern the technologies. And then again, you need to have a CE mark for any device that you want to put on the market, no matter the device classification. And then again, like I said earlier, the lowest or even the lowest device risk device class, even class 1, must undergo conformity and assessment. Although some of these devices, you might need the involvement of a notified body. Again, something to put in place is you have got to put in place the PMS, which is the post-market surveillance. You've got to put that plan, which is a collection of processes and activities that are used to monitor the performance of the device or the digital healthcare that you will be developing. So you need to plan, and you need to have what we call a vigilance program, and which includes reporting serious incidents to relevant, competent authority. So once you've got your device on the market, make sure that you've got your vigilance program in place. In terms of some of the regulatory challenges, we already know that there is a lot of evolving that is happening, be it from an EU point of view or from the FDA's digital health policy. So you have got to be, always just make sure that whatever either regulation or standard that you are working on, there are no changes that are taking place, because there are quite a lot of changes that are taking place. Again, another regulatory challenge is the issues of data privacy. So you need to make sure that you are also complying with either the GDPR or the HIPAA Act. And also, not only that, but there is also the challenge of interoperability and also the integration with existing systems. Because when we are now talking about digital healthcare technologies, they become, or they form part of what we call Internet of Medical Things. So the Internet of Medical Things comprises of even what we call legacy devices. So if your digital technology is going to interconnect, or if it's going to integrate with the existing system, make sure that the issue of interoperability have been taken care of. And that also brings the issue of cybersecurity concerns that I will be talking shortly about. And also the other regulatory challenge has to do with, as a manufacturer innovator, ensuring that the clinical validity and the safety of that of the product that you'll be developing. In terms of the cybersecurity, it is actually a critical concern. And why does it matter? It is important because there is need to protect the sensitivity of the health data, and also ensuring that the device is the device security. And then some of the threats that you need to be cognizant of. There are too many threats, but some of them, as an example, there is the ransomware, the data breaches, and also the unauthorized access. But you also need to know that there are some key standards that you have got to be aware of when you are developing these technologies, which includes the ISO 21007, which is it's a cybersecurity standard, and also the NIST security standard framework. And some of the best practices that we need to think about as a software developer or as a healthcare technology is to make sure that there is data encryption or for the data that is at rest or even in transit. Make sure that you ensure that security is integrated into the software development lifecycle, and also make sure that there is regular vulnerability assessments and also penetration testing that you always do. And then lastly, just make sure that there is a plan for incident response and planning for disaster recovery. And lastly, these are the key requirements that the companies that are developing this digital healthcare, you are supposed to be thinking about. These are some of the essential compliance and validation strategies for your company. One is the data privacy. Two is the product development. Make sure you focus on or adhering on the design and the control, including the risk management standards that I talked about, the 1479891, which is more of the risk management. Make sure that you embed that into the product development, and also the clinical validation, which requires you to demonstrate product efficacy and safety through rigorous studies. And lastly, the PMS, which is the which is the post-market surveillance, which involves you having to continuously or monitor and reporting the device performance. So, in a nutshell, this is.
We'll have a little bit of time for some Q&A. So, is there any questions from the audience? I'll see if there's any online. Any questions? Charlie?
One for probably for Andrew.
Yes, I didn't mention it, but it's one of the key initiatives that has got to be taken into cognizant in terms of the regulation of AI. The only challenge is that since it was in draft format for a long time, and it has now started to be implemented across sectors, and but it is key in the AI Act. But not only that, but there are other initiatives that have been, like the AI bill in the UK is one of the initiatives from an in-country, but from a European point of view, the AI Act is actually relevant. Thank you.
Tom?
Hi, for Dr. Sagu, I think. With health economics, is there a, how far do you tend to go? So Nigel mentioned about the anxiety that could relate to the, whether or not you had a cancer or not with your health economics. Do you go as far as considering the anxiety that a person may have that may lose work due to that, rather than the illnesses that you're studying? Like, how do you have a way of framing that?
Yeah, so if we use the traditional NICE reference case sort of framework or methodological framework, then we try and estimate QALYs, which we do using the EQ5D tool, which has anxiety and depression as one of the domains, and so we capture it within that metric. So we do, but we can use other ways of trying to capture anxiety as well, and try and both measure it and then value it. So we do.
And do you, sorry, one more question, is that right?
That's fine.
Do you consider that? So what's your output for health economics? Is it a number? Is it just a dollar value, or do you separate it into things that are savings to NHS plus savings from that person's professional life? What's your output?
Yeah, so in terms of outputs, it depends on who we're talking to. So if we're talking to NICE, we think about the cost per QALY. If we're talking to developers, they may have a range of metrics that they want information on, and so we can, return on investment. We can do cost analyses, budget impact. We can do the cost per QALY. We can do cost per consequences. So it's thinking about who we're talking to, and how we make sure that the analyses that we do try and answer the questions that individuals want or stakeholders want answers to. So I don't know if that helps or not.
No, it does. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Any other questions? We haven't had any come through online. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks so much to all of our speakers today. You've been excellent. And thank you to everyone for attending in person, and all those online that we've got there. Our next event, which I will be sending out in a follow-up to this event in the email, is sustainability in the health sector. So get your details. I'll send out those details, and you can sign up for those. It'd be lovely to see you there. Also, I will send out these. Please follow us on LinkedIn if you're not already. We put everything on there, all the latest events, newsletters, news and opportunities that we've got, and our other social media channels, and have a look at our new website as well. It's not so new anymore, but if you haven't had a chance to look at it, there's some great features there. And that's it. Thank you. Thanks everyone.